I went broke. Yep, you heard me. I went broke. No money, $0 in my bank account while I was living in Japan on a student visa. And today I'm going to show you how not to go broke in Japan. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Freebird. Hello, welcome. I'm glad that you're here today. I lived in Japan from 2022 to 2023. I was there for a year on a student visa studying abroad. My student visa did not allow me to have a job, so I had no sources of income. When I first arrived in Japan, I had some money saved up, but after about 3 months, a lot of it was spent. I was not the smartest with my finances, and I'm gonna help you out so that way you don't end up like me, because being broke in a foreign country with no means of obtaining any income is not fun. This video is primarily meant for people that are moving to Japan for an extended amount of time, whether it be for work or school or whatever. It's not necessarily for tourists. But I mean, as a tourist, if you want to save a couple bucks, then you can use these tips and they will work for you. Avoiding taxis is the best way to save yourself money on travel. In my city in Japan, a taxi trip from where I lived to the city center was about 4,000 yen, or around 30 USD in 2023. But a bus ride was only about 400 yen, or $3, and that's a 10 times difference. Granted, a bus ride took a little longer, but it was much cheaper. Japanese public transport is always quiet, it's always cheap, it's always clean, and it's more than not always on time. Buses typically only have about a 5-minute delay, which is pretty good. Japanese public transport is pretty immaculate, it's very clean, it is just as good as everyone says it is. Also, if you're out late, maybe past 10 p.m., try to find out when the last bus or the last train leaves to where you need to go. Like, if you're in the city at night and you want to catch the last bus home or the last train home, find out when that is, because if you stay out past the last bus or the last train, you're gonna have to get a taxi ride, and that's gonna be expensive. For public transit, you can pay with coins, but if you want to make things a little easier, you can use an IC card, which is a tap card that you can use for public transport. You can usually top these up at convenience stores, and they save you a ton of time rummaging inside your bag to find the proper amount of change. You don't want to be the foreigner that's standing there at the front of the bus that's counting their coins to put into the slot while everybody's waiting impatient behind you. Don't be that guy. I was that guy more times than I could count. The brands of these IC cards vary depending on the region you're in, but some common ones are Suica, Nimoka, and Pasmo. Also, if you're living in Japan for long term, whatever you do, do not get a JR pass. JR passes are great if you're on vacation, like if you're doing a 2-week trip of the Kanto region. You want to go all out and see the rest of the country, then a JR pass is a bargain. If your daily commute for work or school is 500 yen a day, then paying 60,000 for a 21-day JR pass is a total ripoff. Another tip is to avoid the Shinkansen when you're doing long-distance travel. A lot of people really get excited about the Shinkansen. I mean, I'm not sure why. It just feels like riding any ordinary train, except it's faster. In a lot of cases for travel between cities, taking a flight is much cheaper than taking the Shinkansen. A Shinkansen trip from Osaka to Tokyo takes a little over 3 hours and costs about $100, but a flight takes half the time and is only about $40. I wouldn't say avoid the Shinkansen altogether. The Shinkansen is great for travel within your region or within adjacent regions like Osaka to Nagoya. You'd want to take the Shinkansen for that instead of a flight. Also, a lot of Shinkansen routes overlap typical train routes. Granted, a normal train is much slower than the Shinkansen, it will take you a lot of time, but it is infinitely cheaper. Secondhand stores are the place to go. Japan loves secondhand stores, which is great. When you're a broke gaijin and you need to furnish your apartment, you can furnish an entire apartment using pretty much only stuff you get from secondhand stores. You don't have to buy a bunch of new stuff. You can buy reused stuff, and it's incredibly cheap. You can buy furniture, clothing, books, video games, even cooking materials and tech from these places. At thrift stores like 2nd Street, you can get pretty inexpensive clothing. I have some stuff that I got in 2nd Street that I still have and I still wear that I bought like 2 years ago. This is a 4XL tracksuit that I found at 2nd Street. Look at this. See, in Japan, it gets really cold and snowy sometimes, and I would use this for my snow gear. I bought this tracksuit for about 1,500 yen, which is about $10 USD. I didn't need to pay a bunch of money to get some fancy snow equipment while I was abroad. All I had to do was go to 2nd Street and I bought this, and I'm still using it and it still works. I actually used it recently. I went up to the snow. You can see in this video right here, I'm actually wearing this jacket. Also, 100 yen stores are your friend. Daiso. Daiso is great. You can get tons of stuff here for super cheap. I know that me saying this might make you upset, and it might make you disappointed, and it might make you think to yourself, there's got to be another way. There has got to be another way. But no. The best way to save money on food is to make it yourself. I'm sorry if I sound condescending, but it is mind-blowing to me how many people don't cook their own food and they just order takeout all the time, or they order DoorDash 5 times a week, and then they wonder why they have no excess money to spend. That's why. What are you doing? Why are you spending so much money at the revolving sushi restaurant? I'm not saying don't eat out. You should. That's part of the experience of living in a foreign country, is their food culture. But it's pretty expensive, though, to eat out every day, multiple times a day. I know I'm going to get a lot of comments that are going to be like, oh, but I don't have time to cook for myself. It's so hard. Really? Show me your phone. How much time you spend on TikTok every day? Or on Instagram? You spend 2 hours watching Instagram Reels. And you can't cook yourself a goddamn chicken breast? Come on. Take care of yourself. What are you doing? Also, cooking your own food will help you get in touch with Japanese food culture and will teach you a lot of new Japanese words, since you're going to have to learn all the words for the ingredients you want to buy. Also, you're going to have a hard time finding stuff in the grocery store, and that will force you to go to an employee and ask where something is. Boom. That's Japanese practice right there. Sumimasen, tansatsu wa doku ni arimasu ka? I struggled with food a ton when I first moved to Japan. A lot of Americans I knew did. I went from a buffet-style dining hall where I can eat as much of whatever I want in America to a dining hall in Japan where I have a limited amount of food where I can eat. It's just whatever meal they make that day. Cream and potato soup. You don't like cream and potato soup? Well, I'm sorry, because that's what's for dinner, and if you don't want to eat it, then you're gonna be hungry. The relatively smaller portions that they would serve me at my cafeteria at university would not be enough for me. By the time the evening rolled around, I was super hungry and nothing was open, so I would either go to get fast food or I would buy convenience store bentos. Famichiki and karupisu are great, but you can't live off of it. I'm sure anyone watching this who has lived in a foreign country for an extended period of time has noticed that your body has to adjust to it. It has to adjust to the food. Cooking your own food really helps this issue. It's much easier when you have control over your diet to feel full, to feel saturated, and to save money. If you're going to the restaurant every day, or you're ordering Uber Eats, or you're ordering McDonald's all the time, you're setting your cash on fire. I already said this earlier, but you are. I'm gonna say it a second time, just so you know. I'm trying to help you here. I'm not trying to scold you. I am trying to save you money. I am selfless. Donate to my Patreon.
You've got bottled water. That's nice. Decoy. Chinese water. Yes.
Where in Japan?
Something else that can save you a lot of money on food and drinks are loyalty programs. Lots of stores have loyalty or point programs where you can get certain cards, and the more products you buy from that one store, the more money you save. I know the whole point of these is to establish brand loyalty. Of course, no business is trying to lose money, but if there's a Family Mart that you go to every day on the way to work or on the way to class, it might be worth getting a loyalty point program just so that way you can save a little bit of money if it's a daily purchase already. Or you can at least download the apps of convenience stores, restaurants. Most chain restaurants and convenience stores in Japan have their own apps where you can clip coupons and get deals so you can save a little bit of extra money. When it comes to getting raw ingredients like produce, Go to local markets. Local markets are a great place to get produce because in Japan, a lot of people do gardening as a hobby, and local produce is very cheap. Also, the produce at these markets, since it's local, is a lot fresher than places like Seiyu, which is a Japanese grocery store chain. As much as I love Seiyu, local vegetables are cheaper, so I'm sorry, Seiyu. I'm gonna throw you under the bus for this one. Buy local in Japan. It'll help your wallet and it will help your stomach too, because local Japanese veggies and produce are pretty yummy. The final secret for food that I don't hear a whole lot of people talk about is the drugstore. Drugstores, like Drugstore Mori, will save you a lot of money on snacks and drinks. If you get a tea from a convenience store like a Family Mart, it might cost you maybe 120 yen. But if you get it from a drugstore, it'll cost you as low as 70 yen, which is like 50 cents. That is like nothing. Sure, it might not be the exact brand you like. You may be more of an Ito-en type of person, or maybe you like Iemon. But personally, so long as it's green and bitter and caffeinated, that's fine. When I was in Japan, I drank tea like water, and I didn't discover the cheap drugstore tea until like a couple months before I left. I really wish I would have discovered it early on. It would have saved me a good amount of money. If you have not listened to any of what I've said throughout this whole video, then start paying attention right now, because what I'm going to talk about over these next couple minutes is the most important part to saving you money in Japan, and it's what lost me hundreds of dollars. Japanese party culture is expensive. Many foreigners, me included, when they first arrive, get so caught up in the wonder and excitement of being in a new place that they just go out drinking and clubbing 4 nights a week. I'm not saying you shouldn't party. You should, so long as you're of age and you're doing it responsibly and safely. But when you're getting plastered like 3 to 5 times a week, that's a problem. And not only is it a problem for your bank account because you're wasting tons of money, but it's a problem for your health. Japanese bar culture is very expensive. Some bars have cover charges or entrance fees where you have to pay a certain amount of money just to get in. And then you get charged for things like drinks, snacks, and karaoke on top of that. I don't know how true this is, but I have heard that some businesses charge foreigners extra, especially tourists, so be wary of that. If you do suspect that someone is charging you extra because you're a foreigner, then just pay it. Don't make a big deal over it. Loud tourists scare away customers, and they gotta make up for that somehow, so just pay the money. Another thing, do not fall into the trap of nomi hodai culture. Nomi hodai roughly translates to all you can drink, and it's where you pay an hourly fee to have as many drinks as you want. I've wasted tons of money on nomi hodai. What happens is you get with your friends and you think to yourself, okay, well, if I pay for an hour of nomi hodai, I can have 3 or 4 drinks within 1 hour, and then I'm gonna get drunk. What happens is that you do get drunk within that hour, and then after you drink too much alcohol, then your cognitive skills go and you decide to pay for another hour of nomi hodai, and then another hour. Don't do this. It's not saving you any money. Buy 1 drink at the beginning of the hour, sip it, drink it throughout the hour, and if you finish, get another one. Hold your liquor. Be an adult. Never in my life have I seen anyone buy just 1 hour of nomi hodai, make the best out of it, and then leave when they're done. Nobody does that. What happened to me is I would go out partying in the city. I would take the bus ride down to the bars, maybe around 8 p.m. I'd buy some dinner there, so that was maybe about 3,000 yen for dinner, so 20 bucks USD. Then I would go to the bars, and the bars in Japan, 1 drink is typically 500 to 700 yen. And then you get that times however amount of drinks you have. By the time I finished partying, it was maybe midnight or 1 a.m. By then, all the buses and trains are closed, so I'd have to get a taxi, which is another 4,000 yen on top of that just to get home. And then I wake up the following day with $150 gone from my bank account because I paid some dumb entrance fee to get into some bar because my friends wanted to go. Do not do that. Do not be me. Do not be stupid. A lot of foreigners sort of feel like they need to drink a ton when they go to Japan because The social culture, especially the nightlife, is heavily alcohol based. A lot of times in Japanese companies, they have this thing called the enkai, which roughly translates to banquet, and it's where you and all your coworkers get together and drink. Here's the thing. You do not have to drink if you don't want to. If you don't want to drink for health reasons or for religious reasons, just say that, and most people will respect you. Your health is much more important than someone else's discomfort. If you're not comfortable drinking, you don't have to drink. You can get a tea or you can get a soda. Nobody's going to be offended. And if someone is offended, then I don't know what to say. But anyways, that is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all. Hopefully I saved you some money, or at the very least entertained you. Big thanks to all my patrons on Patreon for supporting me. If you want to see exclusive content, join my Patreon. I release one exclusive video there every single month, stuff that you can't get on the main channel. Make sure to join my Discord server too. Subscribe and like if you enjoyed the video. Links in the description. I'll see you all in the next one. Goodbye.